All right, today's show, Fair Use Act. All right, this is the Fair Use Act statement. We're going to put that up there. Disclaimer under Section 107 of Copyright 1976, allowance made for fair use purposes such as criticism, comments, dues, or teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringed. Fair use. All right. Good morning. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Remember, hit that like button, subscribe, notification bell, do the sharing because sharing is caring. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about the Brett Favre situation, Brett Favre from Mississippi, that scandal, and we'll also talk about Dana White, give an update on that scenario that's been going on with Dana White and some outside of the combat area, some things that he's been involved in. And so, with that said, I'm going to bring in my host for today, Hot Tub Tony. What's up, Hot Tub?
What's going on, Brett? How you doing today? How's everybody
I'm doing well, man. Doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Yes, man. I'm glad you made it in the studio. Looking forward to this one. And my goodness, man, we're gonna talk about some hot topics, right? Some hot topics for us. And when we was talking about this stuff early in the week, it's like, why is it not being pushed on the major networks? I mean, these are some heavy hitters right here. These are some main, very important characters in the sports world. Brett Favre, Hall of Famer, Dana White, ties to the UFC and all his importance to that fight division. And so, you're just wondering why they're not talking about it, but we're going to talk about it. So, with that said, man, we're going to play the intro, and then we're going to come right back and jump right into the topics. All right, Hot Tub. We're not letting Brett Favre off the hook, so let's go ahead and talk about him. Brett Favre.
So, Hall of Famer quarterback Brett Favre is finding themselves involved in a $77 million misappropriation of TANF funds from the state of Mississippi, of which his portion that he allegedly funneled was $7.7 million, $7.1 million.
Wow.
So why is that important to us? Because there has been all but a media blackout on this subject since around about December. Information is very scarce on that. And the media outlets that did have information up about it are slowly but surely taking it down. A lot of the web pages that you used to be able to do and get a lot of detail on are mysteriously disappearing. Basically, the mainstream media wants this story to die down because of some of the players involved in it. There have been a couple of prosecutions. I think as of date, 5 people have been prosecuted for it, but not Brett Favre. And
wow.
I think that is relevant, especially with this being a sports channel. I think it's relevant to not only the audience, but to the poor residents of Mississippi in general, who have had their TANF funds misappropriated. That we talk about this. So Brett Favre, in conjunction with Governor Phil Bryant, that's the former governor of Mississippi, allocated funds took funds that were allocated for the TANF funds for poor Mississippians, and he basically built a volleyball stadium and attempted to build a football field, if I'm not mistaken. That the volleyball stadium was built for his daughter's volleyball team. They have not only written records of this, but there have been text messages and they have actual cell phone conversations that they had about this, that basically Brett Favre knew where the funds were coming from. So when you see him on TV claiming, oh, I did not know that these were welfare funds. Oh, yes, he did. He expressly said it. on numerous occasions. But if you listen to mainstream media, you would never know this. Now, we all know Brett Favre has made a considerable amount of money in the NFL.
Yes, sir.
Funded that he could have funded the volleyball stadium himself. So you got to ask yourself, why didn't he? What made him ask for government funding for this? Because he knew that he can get it. And just to give you a brief background on Governor Phil Bryant. Governor Phil Bryant is the grandnephew of the woman that made the initial allegation against Emmett Till. That's her.
Wow.
That's his aunt.
Mm.
So it kind
Wow.
of gives you it kind of gives you a background of the people that you're dealing with. These are not good people, in my humble opinion. Now,
Well, yeah, to me, I have to agree with that, man. Especially some of the stuff that we are unraveling right now. But go ahead.
you know that I think the state comptroller, if I'm not mistaken, has already pled guilty to his portion, and he's been to jail. But there should be a massive outcry, and especially out of the black community and the black community in Mississippi, which disproportionately make up a significant number of those that receive the TANF funds. But there hasn't been. And I think it was incumbent upon us to keep as much light on this issue as possible. Yes, I know it feels like we beat a dead horse for some time, but it needs to be. Because when stories are allowed to die, those key players are allowed to get away scot-free. And as we know, if any of us had done this, had this been a black player that had done this, it would be wall-to-wall media attention. And rightfully so. I don't condone any type of misconduct, violence, anything like that. I believe in law and order just like everybody else. But law and order should apply all the way around. So the same punishment that we get, you get. And this just highlights that the reason why, because Brett Favre's former ties, and he's plugged in with your ESPN and your different outlets and everything. Just look at
Yeah.
how he was covered by ESPN, by Stephen A. Smith. They don't get half the vitriol that our athletes
Mhm.
get. I take the Kyrie Irving situation. Kyrie just posted a link, and he was wall to wall media coverage for what, about a month, 2 months. But yet
And
Brett Favre can steal $7.1 million, and nobody says a word. And this is a problem.
Yeah, and I don't think that's been hammered home enough. You can say that amount again. It's
$7.1 million.
$7.1 million,
And
and and that's through what type of funds? Hot tub is that government funds?
that's TANF funds. That's temporary assistance for needy families program. That's a welfare program that the federal government allocates money to all 50 states for. But
Mhm.
with the federal government stepping in and giving these fundings to the states, they do not provide oversights. And that was an agreement that the states and the federal government went into in the 70s when this whole bill was put in place. So once the government gives the states the funds, the state can allocate those funds however they deem fit. Now, as far as the state of Mississippi goes, Mississippi has taken those funds and only allocates roughly 7 to 10% of those funds for poor Mississippians, which is already problematic. So to say now I'm gonna take 10% of these fundings, which roughly around 70 to $90 million, and only give 10% to poor people in the state of Mississippi, and then to turn around and say, well, I'm gonna give Brett Favre $7 million. That's a significant amount coming out of that funding. That's
Yeah,
that's an unforgivable theft right there because you're stealing from the most vulnerable residents of your state. And it's not just a black thing; it's black and white poor Mississippians that should be outraged about this.
absolutely. And now you got me thinking about this hotel. Like stealing that amount of money and what it is initially is what is allocated for by the by the government, right? The federal part, but
Mm.
then the state. Okay, so what I'm curious about is why was it was it not even set up with an oversight for each state? Because basically, once you hand it over, then it can be utilized however you want to be with no repercussion.
Well,
And that sounds kind of reckless to do.
that's what the states push for. A lot of states didn't want to take the funding, but
Okay,
the federal government came because the federal government initially said we're going to have all this oversight on how you spend these federal fundings.
okay,
The state said no, that's not what we want to do. So the compromise was struck at the time when this program was put in place that the government would allocate the money and the states would distribute it how they deem fit with very little oversight. They would basically do like they do with the police force. We'll police ourselves. We'll give our own oversight in the county. And Governor Phil Bryant was the state comptroller prior to becoming governor of Mississippi. So he's very familiar at how these funds can be allocated and how they can be misappropriated.
hmm. And for those who don't understand, Brett Favre grew up in Mississippi. Uh, he's he's obviously a legendary. Played at Southern Miss. He's pretty much a super talented quarterback, kind of unknown a little bit, but then became a super talent. Eventually ends up in the NFL Hall of Fame, with the Green Bay Packers. And so he's a legend, and rightfully so. But man, to do something like this, he had to have some connections, how to in order to do this,
Of
and
course,
had to have some key players involved.
of course. And the biggest key player in this, of course, is the former governor.
Yeah,
And neither him nor Brett Favre has been made to account for it. Phil Bryant has been all but silent on giving any excuses as to why he did it, and the media down there in Mississippi as well, as far as the national media has been quiet as to calling for his arrest. They gave up
yeah,
5 people on the lower end that were basically they were told to allocate these funds, but they're the people that physically did it. They say, okay, well, I'm going to take these funds and give them to this organization to give to Brett Favre. But they were
hmm,
directed to do so. And the evidence is there to show that this is a conspiracy on a massive scale. And it started at the top. And not only that, we get caught up in the 7.1 million that was allocated for the volleyball team. We don't talk about the fact that Brett Favre was paid $1.1 million for speeches that he never gave.
wow,
Nobody talks about that. That was the initial story that came out, which led to them finding out about the volleyball stadium. Now, to be fair, Brett
hmm,
Favre has paid back the $7.1 million, but he has not paid the $1.1 million for the speeches that he never gave. But my question to the state of Mississippi, to his current attorney general and to his current governor, would be, why is he not in handcuffs? Why was he allowed to just repay the money when it's evidence that shows that there was a conspiracy to steal government funding? And nobody can give you an answer on that.
yeah, yeah. This is huge, man, and some great points, man. Like, I mean, you still at 7.1 million, and you're kind of you're off kind of scot free right now. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? A lot of other people taking the hit, um, but Brett Favre hasn't, and that's sad, man. That's sad. And so We talk about, like, we recently talked about HBCUs and, how money is not being utilized properly and things like that. And rightfully so. We need, we talk about those things, put it out there, and we want solutions there. And and right here, I mean, you got Brett Favre doing this, and this has been out for a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
This has been out for a while. It really died down considerably, and there's not really much push on it by the media, and that in itself, man. Explain why why it's not pushed in the main media. You got the ESPNs and Foxes and all that, and why is it just not being pushed? Why is it not being hammered home?
well, a lot of times when you're dealing with your mainstream media outlets, especially when you're talking about your more popular outlets like ESPNs. As well as I do, the ESPN is owned by Disney, and these states have ties within. They have ties and interests, financial interests, and political interests tied into these major corporations. So when a story like this comes up, you have to look at the players and what ties they have to the parent company more so than to the actual sports media outlet. Disney has their hands in a lot of things that I don't think people are aware of. Now, can I say that for sure that somebody has ties in Mississippi? I don't know. I was not able to find that information, but normally when you see this type of thing happen, there's some financial interest that's involved in that state or that entity that makes the parent company less likely to report on that. As you will see once we touch on the Dana White situation, you can get a better understanding of it. It was not lost on me that if you have a governor of a state misappropriating funds, yeah, he might have some financial, he might have some controlling interest in certain companies. That makes it likely that he could pick up the phone and say, "Hey, don't cover this story."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it would do us justice not to give this the proper coverage, considering that it was wall to wall media attention for Kyrie Irving posting a link to a movie. Not that he watched the movie, not giving his social commentary on it, but just posting a link. And he was vilified for well over a month. Brett Favre committed actual crimes, actual financial crimes. This is embezzlement.
Yeah.
And it was the story for a couple of weeks, and it was allowed to die down. Not in my world. No, sir.
Right.
No, sir. And let's go into the history of Brett Favre. This is not Brett Favre's first run in with trouble. Brett Favre is known as a known drug addict. Brett Favre was addicted to opioids during his playing career and after. And he's been open about that. Yes, he has.
Yeah.
But the grace that he's been allowed his whole entire career has not been afforded to other players. And I think this is a great opportunity to level that playing field.
Absolutely. We got to make it make sense, man.
You make it make
Because right
sense.
now, it just don't. You know. So anybody that's doing that kind of thing, they should be locked up right now. But you know, do you think it's because of his status, as a his status in the state of Mississippi, and just his overall status, being a Hall of Famer, being a face of the NFL?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think his celebrity status is exactly why he was able to basically walk away scot free. Um, on September 22nd, they locked up the former executive director of the Department of Human Services in Mississippi, John Davis. Then they went back and got four unnamed co-conspirators, and all of them are set to be convicted. I think that just happened. Matter of fact, they just had the rule. They had the case on the second, so the ruling should be coming down shortly. But that was basically they were given as the fall guys. Like I said earlier, those were the people that will put you out there. You got to take the fall for this. But
Oh
what
yeah.
would that say for Mississippi sports if the face of Mississippi sports is Brett Favre? He is the most popular person out the state of Mississippi as far as professional football, I say, in sports in general. To take that fall, that's a hit that the state of Mississippi is not willing to take.
Right. Right. And by the way, Corey says, salute. You say, what's up, Corey? He says, what does one have to do with another? What does one have to do with another? We'll answer that in just a moment. And also, Carbon Q, what's up, man? We
Hey,
appreciate
Carmen,
Carbon
what's going
Q.
on, Coy? My question for Coy would be, what do you, in reference to what does one have to do with another as far as what?
I'll tell you what, we're gonna do one better, and this is what happens if you that subscription, that subscribe button, and things like that. We will bring you on the show. So if you're out there listening, and you ever want to join in, we can drop a line, and we will put some. If you give us some good topics or good questions, we'll get you on there. And speaking of that, we're gonna go ahead and bring Corey right on. He can answer that. He can answer it to you right now. Hot Tub.
Let's get it.
What's up, Corey?
Coy, my
What's
brother
up?
from another mother.
What's up, my brother from another? I
What
must
does one
love
have to do
y'all.
with another?
Hold on. I must love y'all asses because I have not been home since Friday morning. Anyway,
Wow.
what we
Busy
asked,
man.
what does coverage of Brett Favre have to do with coverage of Kyrie?
It shows the disparity in coverage.
Hold on. This is how I am. We already know what the disparities are and what the truths are. We're not exposing anything that we don't know about. Now, the issues of the ways they railroaded and the ways they screwed around with Kyrie is an issue in itself. But when we use the weight of what they do or that community do to try to make legitimacy to our argument, I never understood that point. We don't need to use that to point out a wrong this to us because indirectly, I believe that you're still giving them credit and power because you're using them to point out what's wrong with you.
See, I disagree. I think we're just leveling the playing field and we're giving proper attention to a
And then in that
story that
note,
needs to be highlighted.
when you leveling the play, when you say the word leveling the playing field, right?
Uh-huh.
You're using them as the bar.
Because they have the major media outlets. They
So
have the money. They have the
I
resources
don't
to
care
cover
about it.
whatever stories that they want.
I don't care about that part. But then we say you put our stuff you put our grievances out there in open.
Well, let me parse this out. Let me see if y'all can agree to this. In my thinking of it, it's like what we mean by leveling it out is the vitriol behind, whatever the instance are. So Brett Favre, 7.1 million and also 1.1 million. You know, that to me, that's something that should be talked about ad
Mm-hmm.
nauseum. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Not just kind of, it
Mm-hmm.
mention it and then it's a light, like some light comments about it. And I give a day,
Tyrone.
what I'm saying, give an episode to somebody to come out and say something. Like for example, Shannon Sharp. He came out and he had a strong statement against Brett Favre, and then that was it. You know what I mean? Like then it's gone, and now it's not even in anybody's conscience. But with Kyrie Irving,
One.
it
Now let's
oh well, I'm gonna let you respond, but with Kyrie Irving, it was a layered storyline. It was layered out through a long period of time. It was the whole thing about whether now he's not a good teammate, and it was all into he has to give money back. He has this list. He has to go meet with this person, meet with that person. All over just sharing a link. You know what I mean? But
For
with
me,
Favre,
it's
where's all that kind of thing? Where's
all right.
okay? Answer the question about the 1.1 million. why in the media, why they're not throwing those questions out there like that? They're trying to get those answers. Well,
All
go
right,
ahead, Corey.
you ready? Y'all ready? One, Kyrie. Here's the thing: the nuance with Kyrie. First of all, Kyrie is well. First of all, Brett Favre is a once was now has been football player, right?
Correct.
Okay. Kyrie is an active top 20 NBA player. Can we say still top 20?
I can
Oh,
definitely.
absolutely.
Okay. Kyrie team at the time wouldn't feel like they wasn't getting the money they felt they paid for him, right?
Okay.
Correct.
I don't know about that.
Well, that's the
I
At,
narrative
don't
at,
know
people
at,
have
about
to
that.
at,
look for.
at, at the
Yes.
time, we're not talking about now, because now they feeling kind of stupid because of his trade demand. But at the time, they really felt that they really were they really at the point where they were going to blow that team up and get him off and dump that salary and a lot of other stuff that you could tell there was someone. It wasn't just the statements that he made pushed the issue about when he stated that he watched that movie. It wasn't even that. It was just the fact that he put that tweet up. I watched this movie, and he became an anti-Semite, which also at the same time was a big was quote unquote the media. I don't know. That was a thing in the media,
That was the media's
right?
narrative.
That was the witch hunt. So it was
Right.
like if you say anything, okay. It's just like when the narrative was about the Me Too movement. Now understand, I'm not disregarding anybody's feelings or disregarding anybody's abuses or
Right.
anything else. I'm just saying what the narrative was at the time. But
Right.
the Nets wanted that I believe, because obviously I'm not Dolan or whoever. Wanted was also trying to paint a picture of him
Hmm.
to for to to make it seem like whatever move they were making was going to be on for their best interest, right? And then when okay, he says they say apologize. You apologize. Oh no, you got not only you got to apologize, you got to do this. They felt the need
Right.
to dismasculate. I get all that, all right.
Hmm.
But I'm saying that Brett Favre is a once was has been. Brett Favre does not move the radar in my world anyway. I did again. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. If you or Tony go out there and rob a bank, right? I don't care if kids with cancer funding was in that bank. I'm not gonna trash y'all. You know why? Because y'all are mine.
Hmm.
Like,
And therein
and
lies the problem. And
well,
therein
in
lies the
lies. That's
problem.
but in lies the problem with human nature. Unless you have the power, when you have and the problem in lies is when you have the power, you tend to go softer on your like. I'm just getting being honest with you. That's why a lot of things like that just don't surprise me. I always, there's a such thing as institutionalized racism and all that other stuff. But to me, a lot of all the issues in society comes down to is like. I associate, I understand, and these are the people I'm particularly going to deal with because this is my working circle. But
McCoy,
my
like I
point
tell,
is,
like I have a tendency to tell you, that's you. But there's a lot of casual sports watchers and that consume all of this.
I
And
consume this.
hold on,
I'm
hold
not.
on, hold on, hold on. A lot of them are our people, and that puts them into that mindset of we are our own worst enemy and we got to do better. When it's no, 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 no. We don't have to do anything. This is human nature. But
Hmm.
if they don't get that kind of narrative from platforms like these, and I hammer this home every time I'm on here, then
Yes, but
it's a tendency for us to internalize every issue because you're seeing blackface after blackface after blackface after blackface.
I
And
don't disagree with you. There's a such thing as desensitizing. There's
now,
a lot
hold
of
on,
a
hold on,
lot of.
hold on, hold on. I'm gonna touch on the narrative that you just put out there. Now you saying Brett Favre being a former athlete, this is not newsworthy. Okay, granted, I'll take that. Then why is it becoming wall to wall media coverage on Mike Tyson now? And the allegation of assault allegations from 30 years ago. He's a
All right,
former athlete. He's not.
all right. Okay,
He's not a
hold
current
on.
athlete, but
No, but he now he is in the media sphere. That's one. Number two.
not
Number
as
two.
far as sports goes.
He's a sport. Well, that's his title. He's in a media sphere, and he's an ex-athlete, so it's his title. Now, number Two, I'll be honest with you, the witch hunt on our quote unquote legacy celebrities or whatever, because that's what Mike Tyson is a very pervasive thing. So it is what it is.
But
But
Brett
and
Favre is
also
also oh
but
go ahead, finish.
also Mike Tyson is low hanging fruit.
Yeah, but Brett Favre is an icon. Like he's like he's gonna transcend time. You know what I'm saying? Brett Favre. That's how iconic of a person Brett Favre is. And so for him to be involved with something like this,
Brett
to
Favre's
me,
gonna be
it is
like a.
newsworthy. To me, it's new. It's
I didn't say
mainstream.
no. I didn't say it was not newsworthy.
And,
Follow me? I
well,
said I
what are you
said
saying?
the comparing taking the lack of coverage and saying that this is why if you're gonna do him like this and say, well, why Kyrie got this thing? No, what I'm saying is handle each event on its own sphere, addressing them as they need to be addressed. When you address your grievances and tied to and tied to another set of grievances that you have, you lessen one of the two grievances.
Well, the one that should have been lesson was Kyrie.
I
Uh,
agree.
that's the one that should have been the lesson because, if I'm
I,
not mistaken, you know, he did they come back and say that he's anti-Semitic after all
no.
this, which
And what
is
did Kyrie do?
which, which is what he said from the very beginning.
And what did Kyrie do on the back end?
But he back playing. I mean, what do you mean?
I
Now
don't see
he
what did he do? What did he do? He
he
didn't.
created he created leverage. That's what he did. Now they got to figure out how they can deal. Now they got to
Oh yeah,
deal.
you talking about? Well, you fast forwarding now to the news of Kyrie
Yeah.
demanding to be traded, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, he definitely can do that now, and on a future episode we can get more into that too, because there's more to that situation that meets the eye. But we'll definitely get that on. We'll probably talk about it next week and bring in uh, one of the NBA experts that we have. Looking forward to.
Because
But
sometimes the best way to respond to shit if is to take your hands and put them in your pocket and let them and then and say, oh, y'all want to deal with me like this? Y'all want me to come to y'all groveling? I got something for you. I'm gonna make you come to me to negotiate.
yeah, and shout out to
Put
Tribal
yourself.
Kings. We'll give a quick shout out, Tribal Kings. Shout out. Another shout out to Carbon Q for sharing the show. Carbon, I got the update that you shared it. Appreciate that. Let's continue to share. Hit that like button, that subscribe. Let's keep that rolling. We definitely appreciate it. Shout out to the family man. Shout out to the family man. All right, fellas, we can continue.
I would like to touch on Brett Favre's, and I think we're straying away from Brett Favre, so I want to keep this solely on Brett Favre. Look at what
Okay.
he's doing. He's going into damage control right now with him suing Dr. Umar. And it's not just Dr. Umar. His lawyers have sent cease and desist letters to several black media outlets that have covered this story and won't allow it to die down. And he's gone so far as to getting former President Trump's lawyer to represent him.
Here's the thing: you can send as many as cease and desist letters as you want to, as long as who's ever reporting or who's ever speaking on this thing are not slander or anything else like that, and they are speaking on facts. He can sit there and try every game, every little plan. He can try every little trick in the book. That is one thing people have to understand. Now, if you're going to be in the media sphere, you can't be afraid if you're standing on facts.
This is true.
That's
Now
true.
these people that are in the sphere are creating stuff to change to make the narrative than what it is, what worse than what it is. You might have a problem. But if you're gonna be in, if you're gonna speak up about incidents and stuff like that, as far as those black media outlets, make sure you have your facts in place. And there's a such thing as editorials anyway. You know what I'm saying?
This is
Yeah.
true. This is why when I go into stories like these, I'll try to provide as much facts as possible and keep it directly on the facts that we have at hand. So it's a lot of research before we bring these topics to you. Oh, it's well researched, and we're hitting you
Yeah,
with no
absolutely.
facts. So
My family man says thank you so.
you have to argue the merits of the story itself. You have to argue the facts, and everything that we pull from other outlets is also covered by fair use. So you just like you say, you can send all the media, all the cease and desist letters. If it ever was to go to trial, and I don't think that's something that they want to do, because if you take anybody to trial, and Dr. Umar is a fairly big name, whether you like him or not, he is a public figure, a very large public figure within the black community, and it's going to bring more attention to that case that Brett Favre is trying to get off of him.
No, exactly. The cease and
Okay.
desist letters was a ploy to see us to black to see if you can get someone to back down.
All
It's a
right, and
bully.
yeah,
That was a bully
and that's
tactic.
great, and that's great timing, gentlemen. So here you go, right here. Dr. Umar Johnson says he's ready. You know what I'm saying? He's ready. He's not backing down. He's ready for Brett Favre, and he said something along the lines of, I believe he received that letter through the state of New Jersey, and he said he's ready. So he's ready to take on any kind of lawsuit that may be laid out there from Brett Favre and his camp.
We all know it's a frivolous lawsuit now, and I applaud Dr. Umar for standing his ground. I may have some issues with Dr. Umar on certain issues, but on this one, hey, I applaud you for standing your ground on there.
Yeah, me too. I may have issues with them. One of maybe one to 1,000. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, but he definitely, he definitely is not backing down. As you can
and,
see, he's ready.
and nor should any platform back down. When you're reporting the news, no matter how it makes a certain individuals feel about it, it's newsworthy information, and I think it deserves the attention and scrutiny that it's being given, especially by the smaller platforms. News breaks on the internet right now. Your days of your legacy media outlets being the sole having sole control of the narrative and what stories get the most attention are over with. Small platforms can have big impact on these stories. So I'd say to all of the smaller outlets, keep doing what you're doing. Keep putting the pressure where it needs to be applied at, because it'll pay off for you, for your platform and our people as a whole.
Absolutely. All right. So, gentlemen, why do you think Brett Favre did this in the first place? Why do you think he got involved with this method of, getting money in the first place?
Honest opinion. Probably had a buddy that came to him with an idea, and he probably didn't vet it. But hey, you chose to ride with this fool, so you get what you get.
Well, when you see, for me, and this is my opinion, this has no bearing on the channel at all, but somewhat similar along the lines of what Coy just said. This is what they do. This is not the first time this has been done, so they knew that they can get away with it. Brett Favre just happens to run the circles with those who have the know-how of how to finagle these funds and get away with it without any kind of scrutiny. I say the governor, Phil Bryant, that was his job before he became governor. He was the state's comptroller. He knows how to allocate funding when funding needs to be allocated to other areas. He was the I'm sorry, I said comptroller. He was the state auditor for Mississippi from 96 to 2008. So yeah, he knows how to do this. And he runs the circle with Brett Favre. So hey, Brett Favre said, my daughter need a volleyball stadium. Oh man, come on, man, I got you. We got a little money. We find a little money for it. And if you look at the text messages that were subpoenaed and put out for public consumption, they state that almost to a T. I'm not even exaggerating the conversation at all. And unfortunately, I don't have the actual text of the text messages in front of me. But if you just look up Governor Phil Bryant and Brett Favre text messages, you'll see it. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew that this could be a misappropriation of funds. Brett Favre even joked about it, which makes it even more egregious.
Yeah, now we're getting into character. I mean, this type of character that this person has. I mean, because you knowing that this money is supposed to be for those who need it. You know, people that are definitely poor and need assistance, and we're taking money out of people's, taking food and etc. and shelter and all this out of people, and for what? You know, for a volleyball field. I mean, a court. You know what I mean? That's just sad.
And I dare say it, lying is not it's not considered a problem in the Bryant family. When you take into account Carolyn Bryant and her history with the allegations that were levied upon Emmett Till that she admitted she lied to. Like Coy said.
Right.
So yes, I think that is a character flaw.
Well, gentlemen, anything else you want to say about Brett Favre's situation for now? Like, what's next? What do you think is next for Brett Favre? What do you think would be the proper protocol from this point out?
It's been at the end of his news cycle, and you'll hear smatterings here and there, but this is gonna fade off. It just is what it is. You're gonna have the people on the outskirts that says, "What about Brett Favre?" And I tell you, if that's your battle, you're just gonna have to keep screaming it. But it's gonna move on because we are in a 10-minute news cycle world.
I dovetail off of that. For me, anything short of Brett Favre not serving jail time is a disservice to the poor people in Mississippi. And we don't have. Coy is absolutely right on this issue that we live in a 10-minute news cycle, but we don't have to. So if you feel as strongly as I do about this, I encourage you to reach out to the by email and hit their website for the district attorney of the state of Mississippi and express your displeasure in this and tell them, and with no uncertain terms, that Brett Favre needs to be investigated and Brett Favre needs to be convicted. Charges need to be brought to him. If enough public scrutiny stays on these issues, they have to address it, and they will address it. But it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to keep that pressure on them, keep that foot on their neck, and do not allow stories like these to just wither away and die. But that's my experience.
Okay. And there's family man. He definitely appreciates the show, and he's expressing similar things that we are. And that, I mean, this should be pushed more out there in the mainstream about Brett Favre and the 7.1 million, and also the 1.1 million. All right. We also had another person of interest that we wanted to discuss, and that's a name that a lot of people know, especially if you're into combat sports, and that's Dana White. And so I'm gonna pass the baton back over to Hot Tub, so we get into our discussion of Dana White.
So Dana White has been in the news somewhat as of recent for the incident in Mexico with his wife. They pretty much assaulted one another. Now, this is another story that's been allowed to escape the news cycle and almost on a one and done basis. But considering that we live in this Me Too era, I'm actually surprised that it hadn't gotten the attention that it should have gotten. If many of you may not know, around about 2011, Dana White's mother wrote a book in which she detailed her son's history of domestic violence, and basically his scumbag behavior, sleeping with ring girls, just general mistreatment of women, where she, out of her own words, admitted my son is not a good person. This
Question, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Did his mother have to say that for you to know that back in 2011?
I never knew anything about Dana White, so I was glad to hear that his mother was fairly forthcoming about her son.
If you was in the sports sphere and into, trust me, that ain't no shock. But continue.
And there was she did an extra interview about it. That's still up online. But when the story broke about Dana White's physical altercation with his wife, that mysteriously was never brought into the conversation. That this is not a one and done. This is not, oh well, me and my wife we had an incident and we sought counseling and she's not pressing any charges. The narrative that was out there. No. Let's give this the proper attention that it deserves. Let's go into his mother's comments about it. let's investigate your background. But it got me to wondering why is there this push for this story to die? And then even outside of the normal push for stories involving a certain community to die down. Well, you got to look at the ownership. Who owns the UFC? Because Dana White is not the owner. Yeah, he has 9% share in there, but he's not the owner. The owner is Endeavor Media. That is sports media. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart right now. Basically, they represent. They're like a sports agency. They represent some of your biggest names in sports, like LeBron James being one of their most prominent clients. That's owned by Ari Emanuel. If that name sounds somewhat familiar, that is the brother of former Obama chief of staff and former Chicago mayor Rahm Emanuel's brother. So you see how this rabbit hole starts getting deep. Let's go a little deeper in there. The UFC is in talks with ESPN to be the sole publication that airs the UFC fights. And we all know that that's owned by Disney. So, and Disney owns ESPN as well. So when you start to looking at it from that angle, they're in the midst of negotiations. Stockholder money is involved in this deal going through. This could be lucrative for both sides. So it's an incentive on all parties involved in there that this story dies down. This story just goes. But that's a disservice to the shareholders for both of these companies. Dana White is an employee. Dana White is the president of UFC, but he is an employee. So there should be a public outcry to have him fired. He should be fired, and he can be fired. Because if it was one of his athletes that did it, he would fire them. So I think the same level of scrutiny, the same punishment should be applied to him as well. What would you do to your athlete if one of your athletes had this on them? Well, that's what should happen to you. You should be forced to step away from your role, but it's a lot of political and
they'll force him out.
Huh?
I said they will force him out.
And that's what needs to happen. But it won't happen if we don't apply the proper pressure to it. And with his own mother coming out and saying he has a history of domestic violence, I think that's very much relevant to what we're speaking on now.
Yeah. And speak on that YouTube real quick, just for those who don't know what YouTube is.
Say that part again.
Me Too.
The Me Too. I'm saying Me Too.
Oh, the Me Too
I'm
movement.
sorry, I said YouTube, but Me Too.
Me Too movement is basically that's the movement from a lot of women to speak out on major big public figures who
locker room bullshit.
there
That's
you
what it
go.
is.
There you go.
I mean, I get when people say they feel like it's a witch hunt, but well, there's one statistic that always sticks in the back of my mind when they say that that it's a witch hunt, this, that, and the third. Most people don't realize that most of the time, 90 in the amounts of 80 to 90% of most rape allegations are true. Most people don't realize that, but we always we dabble into trying to add, and out of those 90% that are true, only 40 to 50% of them get prosecuted. And then you can go dabble even further in the percent that actually yields a conviction or whatever. So do I think the Me Too movement got, how can I say it? Because I feel two ways about it. Yes, it's something that needs to be addressed, but then there's also points in it where you can see that some of the stuff may actually been drawn up to be a witch hunt. But I'm not a woman. If a woman feels that this is uncomfortable to them, then I'm gonna have to defer to what they feel is uncomfortable behavior from them, from whomever. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm gonna say this. There have been a lot of women who've expressed their displeasure at the media attention that this story has been given. But I would challenge everybody to actually, because I would challenge you to look up who actually owns and runs the actual organization of Me Too. Because much like Black Lives Matter, you have the Me Too hashtag and the grassroots people that are pushing it, and then you have an actual organization, Me Too. That is,
Hmm.
and those are when you start to looking at who put the money up for the Me Too movement. And I'm not going to go into detail on that on this broadcast, but
And
you start to see a whole lot of powerful names behind it, and those out of those powerful names and people that have put money behind this, a lot of them have had past sexual allegations levied upon them.
understood. Now I'm gonna say this, that being that I am not that gender. We're not gonna get into the gender talk, Tony. Don't go there. Um, and all I can do, from my perspective, it's the same thing that we sometimes tell the majority community. Sometimes don't speak on things that you can't that you can't live. You understand what I'm saying?
And that is why I'm gonna leave that right there. I'm gonna
All
leave that
right.
everybody to touch on that, to just do some investigation on the organization itself.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying don't believe the women that levy these charges against them. I'm not saying that at all.
Because
They
now,
look at the
because what I
organization.
have because what I have learned over the years is we'll find one or two incidents and make that the norm versus the actual truth of it. Because it is,
Well,
because
yeah.
there's it's a known, it's very quickly that if so and so, because most people don't realize that most people tend to think as we don't, well, I won't use the R word, is this guy jumping out of an alley and this predator of a different type running around, when most of the time these incidents are more or less familiar or partner or interactions between people that you know when most of these incidents happen, which kind of dirties the water on whether or not the allegations are true or false, blah 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 blah. But I can say this, that um, we as men over the years have pushed the line, and who's to say what's beyond comfortability for the person you push the line with? You understand what I'm saying?
I understand totally, and like
Yeah,
I say that
that's why I said let's just stay out of this one right here.
that's
I
that's
will say
one
that
that's
I
one
will say
argument
that
that I'm not gonna argue the
I'm gonna
merits
leave it
of.
like this. Out of respect If you're gonna quote unquote run any kind of media outlet and give out punishments for abuse and other behaviors, you cannot have the person that's going to be the person that divvies out this thing doing the same thing. Because if it's all about you quote being on the side of righteousness and what's right, then ain't no way in the hell you should have someone in charge that is a hypocrite in that the same behavior as what he did.
All right. But let's spin it back to Dana White, right? So
That's who I'm
so
talking
what
about right now.
You
yeah,
talking about
okay.
Dana
So
White?
what is it? Well, yeah, I know we also jumped on that, we two out, and I brought that up. But what's next?
Well, that solely depends on the viewers.
Pressure is going to depend
Yes.
on pressure, and the problem with the viewers, in a lot of cases,
Mm-hmm.
is the base. Because a lot of times, as they say in politics, sometimes you speak to your base. You know what I mean?
Oh
What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah.
The
Basically,
power.
the viewership of the UFC doesn't care. So it's incumbent upon people like ourselves,
Mm,
people like the people that are watching this broadcast right now. If you feel a certain type of way, ladies, if y'all are watching it, you feel a certain type of way about this, then speak on it. Any chance you get. Do a social media do something on your social media page, on your Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. But keep this in their face. Don't allow it to die down the vine, because the more pressure that they get, trust and believe, Disney is very aware of what social media is saying. Very much where they have whole teams of people that just monitor social media. What hashtags are up there? Do a hashtag, get the hashtag fire Dana White. Make that trendy. Guess what? Their shareholders see that. They see that. And when it becomes so problematic that it's
hmm
not worth keeping Dana White, oh, there'll be a push to get him up out of there.
hmm
But that's our responsibility, because we can't leave it to the mainstream media, as I laid out to y'all before. Most of your sports outlets are owned by the same corporations that are trying to push this deal through.
hmm And sometimes it becomes a thing where because you roll with someone, you got to realize that sometimes when your brother's out of pocket, you got to snatch their ass up.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna tell
Just
y'all
because
something,
you roll with somebody doesn't mean you got to allow them to move a certain kind of way.
because I would tell everybody something. There's one person out of this whole equation that's been quiet. I mean, no interviews or anything, and that's Ari Emanuel. Dana White is your employee, and you have said you have not made one public statement as the owner of the UFC. You haven't made one public statement condemning nor condoning. So that lets you know, hey, don't say nothing. We just gonna let this go away. No, 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 no. Because you leave it up to me, I'm gonna keep my foot on your neck. I'm gonna call out you, your brother, your organization, LeBron James. Why haven't you spoken about this? Considering that the company that represents you owns the UFC, yeah, you have a vested interest in speaking out against Dana White.
And those that know, Tony like to put a foot on somebody's neck.
I will keep my foot on their neck. I enjoy it. If you know me in my personal life, you'll understand that reference.
Ah,
Yeah,
hot tub Tony.
These size
yeah.
12 stay on somebody's neck.
There it is, and rightfully so. So that this is good, man. Good information. Like I said, we talked about earlier in the week what our subjects would be, and definitely we came down to Dana White and Brett Favre. Um,
I got a quick side note on on a different type of tone.
okay.
The Super Bowl's coming up. Who will be the starting quarterbacks for the two teams?
You
Jalen
repeat
Hurts
the question?
and Patrick Mahomes.
What is significant about that?
It's the first two a quarterback where it's going to be two black starting quarterbacks, ain't it?
Yes. And the other significance is Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy still doesn't have a head coaching job.
This is a problem.
Just
That's a,
observation.
no, that's a great topic for another show right there.
But I do want to highlight the fact that going back from Broadway Joe Gillum to now, that we can see it's still everything's not quote quote where it should be, or well, I won't say should be because who knows what should be. But this is, as far as African American sports history, this is one of those watershed moments of someone standing, of two young men that stands on the shoulders of a Doug Williams, Broadway Joe Gilliam, uh, Randall Cunningham, Warren Moons, and just want to give those boys, those guys
Those men.
before them, those men, their flowers, and the legacy that they wrought in bringing in to the point where this is the first time this has happened ever. And significantly, the other thing is, on those two teams, the quarterback coach is African American, and the offensive coordinator for the other team is African American. And if you know anything about how quote unquote football goes when it comes to coaches, coordinators and quarterback coaches tend and offensive line coaches tend to be the guys that move on upwardly mobile to be the head coaching jobs. Just the way it is, because those tend to be the quote in theory the best groomed candidates for the next head coaching job.
Salute to them for this accomplishment, because Corey is right. This is a big accomplishment. It does buck the narrative that's been laid out for black quarterbacks over the years. Oh, they don't understand offense. They don't know how to read the plays. All they are is straight athleticism, and they don't have the quarterback IQ to maintain the position. They are bucking that trend now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it's more of the norm to have black quarterbacks, and I think it's you can just go across the NFL and you see it. I mean, it's not as rare as it was at one time, and this is good.
I won't say norm, but it's more of, at least it's gotten to the point
Well,
as far as that position goes.
I mean, but
That
you're getting a
it's
lot of them
more,
drafted high and everything. You
yeah,
know,
but
you
I
got a
mean,
couple
yeah,
more coming out this year.
yeah, you have a couple more, but then what about the other 10, 12? There's I mean, like I said, won't say norm, but it is where great gains have been made. Because you still, if you, there are situations where it's not totally where we need to be in that. Because if you ever paid attention to a lot of the ones that come along, the easiest way to insulate a black quarterback is to have a black backup. If you don't believe me, check the records and see what happens when how many times you've had a black quarterback and everybody's screaming for the backup. And notice when the backup is a different person, it's a different game. Just watch.
I've never noticed that, but you're right.
I'll give you an example when uh what was it, Garrod down in Jacksonville?
Yep.
Hmm.
They started asking for
From
DeLong and
Alabama
some of the
State.
other guys. Yeah, and then they actually the team made a conscious effort at a black backup and a black third string quarterback, so they would stop asking for the backup. When Vic was in Atlanta, everybody was asking for his backup from time to time. So just I don't
I
know,
mean,
maybe
yeah, I
because
mean, you
it's
still have that. Yeah, you still have that.
yeah.
Resistance. You're gonna have that from time to
hmm
time. But
And then the
what's
narrative,
really
and then the narrative. Oh, and then you can hear the narratives. With all that being said, you still hear the narrative. Is Patrick Mahomes, how people say, how's Patrick Mahomes getting disrespected, right? And I heard a commentator say this. He said the fact that people say he's one of the two best quarterbacks in the NFL tells you the disrespect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
You're
there's
familiar.
11. There's 11 starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And out of what is it, 32 teams? So that's about a third of the
Mm-hmm.
league has quarterbacks, African American quarterbacks that are the starters. And so you can dig even deeper to find the backups as well. But that is I mean, especially from our era, Coy, hot
Mm-hmm.
tub, that's a major improvement. And to me, the way the game is being played as well, um, I think it's going to be suited for mobile quarterbacks that can run and throw, and so
Now,
that's going to be more
here,
common ground.
let's see. Here's the thing. I, I bite at that narrative that automatically says when you say mobile and da 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 da, that automatically means black. It's almost like the word urban. No, it just means a mobile quarterback. You see what I'm saying? It means a quarterback. And it's not necessarily that the quarterback has to be mobile. It's just the quarterback um has to be
Athletic.
able, athletic enough, or can make the quick decision. Because on on the same token, we people will say, could Dan Marino make it into the league today?
Yes,
Yes. Why? Because Dan Marino knows how to get the ball out X amount of time. Tom Brady's never been the most mobile person. Tom Brady, Father Time, no got on Tom Brady's ass, and he's not the Tom Brady he once was. But
but
it's so but so it's I
but
don't.
what you're saying, Coy, is what I'm saying. It's like we're both standing there looking at the number six from two different sides. It looks
Hmm.
like a nine on my side, six on your side, but we're looking at the same number.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What I'm referring to is the style of play has opened the game up to where you you can get away with having uh more mobile quarterbacks, and that opens the door
I don't disagree,
because
but
a lot of African American quarterbacks have that natural mobility, and but even a Steve Young back in the days when that style of quarterback was not really in vogue, Steve Young, he went through some of the same things as well. Like, hey, you're an athlete. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that
I
comes
But
from
putting
the
the
offensive.
I get what you're saying. I, I would just you know me. I have my pushbacks on certain nuances and statements. Because we automatically assume mobile quarterback, i.e. means black quarterback, blah blah blah, right? And
mobile
then
quarterback
what
means
I'm
mobile quarterback.
yeah, to you and me, yes.
Yeah.
But there's this level of all if because when you say, well, if it wasn't for mobile quarterbacks, black quarterbacks wouldn't exist.
No,
You see
we
what I'm
had
saying?
black quarterbacks before they were quote
You
unquote
damn
mobile.
right we did. Warren Moon was not a mobile quarterback.
Not at
Not when
all.
he hit the no he was when he was younger, but when he
Mm.
got to the NFL, he was not a mobile quarterback because he was much older. People do not realize what Warren Moon would have been if he never went to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will throw this in there as well, though. Warren Moon, though he was more of a pocket quarterback, if you will. He was also athletic, so he was
Yeah,
able to run
oh,
too.
I
He
never
was
said he
able
was
to do
athletic.
both.
I never
Yeah,
said he
he was able
wasn't
to do
athletic.
both.
Steve Young
No, I'm
was
saying
also
he can
athletic.
run.
Was he the
Yeah,
runner?
That's what I want to say. You can have a very very intelligent, smart, a guy that has a high game IQ that's athletic and happens to be your quarterback, versus saying the onslaught of a mobile quarterback, because automatically it's almost like this. My argument's going to stand on this. He's a black quarterback that can move. He is not a mobile quarterback. He is not a mobile quarterback, and he's black. No, because the thing about it is, the narrative is these guys and these kids have put in the work to become a quarterback, regardless of what you want to call them, mobile, whatever you want to call them. They're quarterbacks, and they just so happen to have an extra skill set. It's as if this one had a strong arm, or this one had a this one can read defenses. This one can call his own plays. All the different things. Instead of it being the A, it's a quarterback with this skill set. So that's why I say, and when we mention black quarterbacks, everybody jumps to, oh yeah, the game has changed and they're mobile, blah blah blah. No, how about Patrick Mahomes is a hell of a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. You keep him in the pocket and he's still a threat. But I would say this. I say the mobile quarterback position, that's more indicative of offensive coordinators not being able to draw up a play to cover them once they become mobile. That's
Well,
what
it
the game was
becomes the
lacking in the
offense.
meaning
It
that
becomes
once that quarterback took off in the past, like I used the Vic era, there was no schemes to draw protection for Vic or how to cover him once he came off that line of scrimmage. Once he came out the pocket and got going. Now
well.
you kind of seeing the game.
Here's the
You kind of
narrative.
seeing the game
Here's the
adjust to that.
here's the narrative. I play football from the reactionary side, meaning defense. And once you get yourself outside that box, you become open prey.
Yes.
And here's the thing: these guys, these young guys. This is why I say it's still even though the game needs a quarter, even though the game has shifted where you need a quarterback with a little more athleticism, it still comes down to this right here. You cannot sustain that abuse and be in the league for X amount of time. There's a reason why the average NFL career is 3 to 3.5 years. The physical abuse of your body.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's other things that go into it, and the game has been evolved in a way that is about the points and the whatever. So
But I still
I
say,
guess I got you, T. I got you, T.
yeah,
I'm
but
just
I
stuck
still
on
say
my
the
point.
style of the game. Cause even like with Hurts, right? He threw for 120 yards somewhere in that, the other day. But but the threat of him as a runner as well, what I'm
Mhm.
saying? That makes it double trouble for anybody. And I think we're gonna get together and talk about the Super Bowl pretty soon here because it's next Sunday. And
Right.
but
Well,
we'll definitely do that.
my caveat to that is the fact that when Peyton Manning was in the pocket and the fact that you couldn't disguise coverages and you had to play him straight up was the fact that if you tried to disguise coverages, it didn't work and he could actually pick you apart regardless of what you tried to hide from it. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I
Yeah,
said, it's a skill set that adds
yeah,
another dimension to defending against it. That's what I want to get.
right.
It's just and
A whole nother
actually
layer.
right. And actually, Patrick Mahomes, honestly, if you want to, yes, he's an athlete. He's athletic, right? There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that part of it. But he's not a runner. He's not a whatever. His skill set is he has a very high IQ, and he's very accurate, and he has a ridiculously strong arm. I mean,
He can
the
read a
boy.
defense, bro. I would tell you
Yes,
that his
sir.
football
And
IQ is very high.
that arm, when people think about his arm strength, they thinking in Tyrone knows what I'm talking about when I say in the veins of a Jeff George arm strength.
yes. Jeff George had a cannon.
Yes.
He
But
had a cannon.
you throw that into a quarterback that's got touch, got a high football IQ, and all the other intangibles that young man got. You see what I'm saying? Because like
Oh yeah,
realistically, he's not a mobile quarterback in that he doesn't move. He's a quarterback that has mobility, but he's not a running quarterback. He's not that narrative. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. Because I would think that I would put that in the category of Hurts as running quarterback. But with Mahomes, I put him more John Elway ish. You know what I mean? Well,
No.
John Elway will break runs when he needed to, but he also will sit back there and just and beat you with the arm. And that's why to me, I like a Mahomes more to an Elway type quarterback.
I'm gonna be
Cause
honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. Comparing Mahomes to a John Elway is disrespectful to Mahomes.
Agreed.
mm, well, we definitely have to get into that for our Super Bowl conversation. We definitely have to do that one because
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 what we're
two
talking
two
is you
two
got
out of three like that. I don't see the problem with that.
because what you're talking about a later career John Elway compared to Patrick Mahomes that still hasn't hit 30 yet.
I'm talking about the drive Elway. I'm talking about El, the Elway before the Terrell Davis era and all that. Like
Okay,
Elway
but
beat you.
what I'm saying.
Elway
Oh,
will
Elway, no,
beat you
no, no,
by
no,
moving
no.
and
As you go
throwing.
far as careers go, John Elway, if you go put everybody in front of him, he's one of the greatest ever. And that part, yes,
Yeah,
he is above Patrick Mahomes only because Patrick Mahomes still has a whole book to write. But
right.
to compare, to say he's like an Elway is disrespectful because he's so much more and he's different than what a
He's
John
different
Elway is.
Elway,
His
bro. A
game is
totally
different.
different type of game, man.
But
Totally,
we'll get more into
totally
that
different
one.
era, style of play. That's now from then to now, and even with the way that they play, that's not a fair comparison right there.
Well, I would challenge you all to go back and watch Elway because
I know what the Elway game was.
he
You didn't got to
he had
challenge
he
me.
had
But
he could throw the he made the throws and he made the runs, and that's what Mahomes does. I
but see,
mean,
Mahomes does not.
that's not a
Mahomes,
slight to anybody.
no,
That's
but you got to
giving
understand.
credit to both of
Elway
them.
ran. First of all, Elway ran a lot more than Mahomes did. Mahomes, Elway it took 5 to 10 years to keep Elway from depending on. Elway came into the league and depended on his feet. He was a running quarterback. He just didn't get that narrative because he was a white guy quarterback with a strong arm, but he was a running fool. That
Absolutely.
that's why I say that. Mahomes only runs when he has to. Elway, when in doubt in his early part of his career, he took off before he made the wide before he made the read. As he got better and as he got more polished as a quarterback, he learned to make the reads and he learned not to tuck the ball and tuck and dip as much. Mahomes, if anything, Mahomes is a more athletic version of a Joe Montana with a better arm. That's what Mahomes is.
Okay, that's where you just finished that out for me because I was going to say, but Montana arm strength isn't his
No,
forte.
no, but it's Montana forte is that he can lead an offense, and at any given time when that man gets on the field, he can destroy, he can take your defense apart,
Hmm.
and that's and
Yep,
that's what Little Jordan does on the football field.
yep, and it'll be exciting next Sunday. So we'll definitely have some Super Bowl talk next Sunday.
Because the narrative
We'll
of
have some interesting topics on that.
Yeah, because the narrative before this year was, well, Patrick Mahomes has all these weapons around him. Well, all he has is Kelso, and he's still doing it. I
Yep.
mean, they're talking about has Joe Burrows surpassed him, this, that, and the third. And it's like, wait a minute, dude,
No.
because he
Mm-mm.
because no, what because his if you look at people don't even realize it. It's almost to the point where every year he can win the Super Bowl. I mean, win the MVP,
And
and
they
it's
still
like
gonna level
because his
criticism on
stacks. Well, his stats are just. It's gotten to the point where it's almost like when the years in the NBA when it was like, oh, Michael Jordan can win the NBA, win the MVP every year just for the fact that this is what he does every year. It becomes when your greatness becomes norm, which is what
Hmm.
basically is going on with the kid now. It's like, that's just Patrick Mahomes. He ain't doing nothing special. He just threw for 5,000 yards. What?
Well, I
Who else?
mean
Yeah,
but that's
that's
when we get that's when we get people. That's when the main, the average people get kind of numb to stuff. But what he's
hmm
doing is great stuff. And the point that Tyreek Hill, right? He's in Miami, and he put up good numbers this year. But still look what's going on in Kansas City, and you
hmm
probably can't name any wide receiver on that roster. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
I can't think of a Pro Bowl receiver that's on that roster outside the tight end position. So,
hmm
that Mahomes is getting the job done, and he's one of the he's on a he should be a Hall of Famer when his career is over. He's definitely on that trajectory.
Only thing to stop him from Hall of Fame is time right now. That's it.
he's
Yeah,
he's definitely gonna go
yeah,
out as a first rounder, bro. First round Hall of Fame.
yeah, yeah. He'll be enshrined like Brett Favre. You know what I mean? But before we get out of here, Jalen Hurts, he has he has the first black woman agent, and he's definitely
Mm.
pushing to have more black females out here in that field, and she's the first black woman agent, and she's tied to Jalen Hurts, and so shout out to Jalen Hurts for that as well. And the Super Bowl again, it's going to be exciting.
I'm gonna
My
tell you like
dad's
this.
team, oh, Corey, hold on, my dad's
Go ahead.
team is the Philadelphia Eagles, and so I know he's looking forward to that. I'm gonna see if we can get him on to join us on next Sunday. But go ahead, Corey.
Yes, sir. Oh, and I'm gonna say, and probably you, because people don't realize Seattle came from the AFC West. You probably pulling for the Chiefs, and just because you're you. But anyway,
Well, you know what, man. Well, I'll give my prediction on Sunday. I'll give you who I'm going for on Sunday. I'll
Oh, it's
I'm
announce
gonna
it
be
then.
good.
I'm gonna tell you, but I will tell you this. You said like he's bringing in a black agent. I'm gonna tell you like this. If I Screw what you want to know. If you want somebody on your team that's about getting your money for you,
Get you a black woman.
get you a black woman, because she ain't gonna let nobody get you. She is one thing. One thing about that woman is she gonna make sure you get all your coins, and she ain't gonna let you leave them on the table. So
Not a
that's
dime left on the
that,
table.
yeah, not a dime left on the table. Now I'm gonna leave it like that.
Yep. Oh man, it's gonna be exciting. So we'll get it up there. I'll huddle up with you guys so we can lay out what we want to discuss for Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes.
I look forward to that as well. I appreciate everybody who tuned in today.
Mm.
The comments, the shouts, the shares, the like buttons. Please remember to do all those things for us. It does nothing but help us. Help us get the news out there to everybody. Get those topics out that need to be discussed. Coy, thank you for joining us today. Hot Tub, thank you for being on again as
Oh,
a soldier, the soldier you are. And man, this is great information that you all shared today. And for Coy, for Hot Tub, I'm Mr. 411. Thank everybody for watching. Get ready for next week. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. I am headed. I am well. I'm gonna shut my day down and get me some sleep. So y'all have a
There
good
you
one.
go.
have a good
Get
one.
that rest. All right. Have a good one.